Next, we move to item 14. The new item 14, which is the memo regarding energy system zoning ordinance and text amendments, which was originally in the consent agenda and is now up for board discussion. This memo was prepared at request of Trustee Sikora? Yeah, at Trustee Sikora. And then, given the sensitivity and the timeliness, felt it reasonable to place it in the board packet so that the public could see the memo as well. And I think first we'll open up the item, particularly the memo, which I believe is on page 5.
Yes.
Yeah, regarding the energy system zoning ordinance and text amendments. So is there anyone that wants to start board discussion on this item before we move to public comment?
I guess I was just hoping maybe Jim could give us a
Sure,
full-throated introduction to the
sure.
statute and what our role is as a township.
Sure. Let me begin by saying that I'm often troubled when legislation comes out of Lansing that basically takes local control away from local communities, cities, villages, townships. It often seems that it's townships that get treated the worst as far as preempting local control. I've only done this 40 years now, and the number of times that local control has been stripped away from local units is, I can't count the number. The last one that still causes me great consternation is when they enacted the state act that preempted local units from controlling where transmission lines would go in the community. And everybody knows about the ITC line and how that went. Even though this board opposed that and we took it all the way to the Michigan Supreme Court, unfortunately, we were summarily dismissed by the Supreme Court, and local units have little or no control over a number of items, gravel pits, transmission lines, a lot of other issues. When Public Act 233 was put in place, basically what the state legislature did, and I hope the public, and I know a lot of you people out there have studied it and you understand it, but for those that don't fully understand it, it basically places this community between a rock and a hard place. And I say that because Act 233 really, for all intents and purposes, preempts what this community can do effectively. Doesn't tell us what we can do or can't do. We can do anything we choose to do, but what would the effect be? Basically, under Act 233, when it comes to both wind, solar, or battery energy storage systems, renewable energy, if we did nothing, anyone wishing to place any of those major facilities in a community would simply go to the Michigan Public Service Commission. We could, as some people have recommended, develop a CREO, which is a compatible renewable energy ordinance. And that simply means it matches all of the requirements of Act 233, which means you get no more protection than you would if you went to the Public Service Commission. The other option is to do a workable ordinance, or a WEO, and I believe that's what your planning director is working on, is a WEO. A WEO is simply an ordinance that does what you can, within reason, to try to make an ordinance that wouldn't push a developer immediately to Lansing in the MPSC. So I believe that's what she's working on. The other option is to adopt an unworkable ordinance, which would restrict or, in essence, prohibit the development. The minute this community does that, in my opinion, what the energy companies will do is simply sidestep us, and they're allowed under state law, if they don't like your workable ordinance, or if you have an unworkable ordinance, they simply can apply at the MPSC, provide a public notice here, hold a public hearing, listen to the public, and totally ignore us at that point and go to Lansing. Given my experience before the MPSC on the ITC matter, I don't mean to be overly pessimistic, but I honestly think forcing a developer to go immediately to the MPSC is not necessarily the wisest thing to do, because they're part of the process of approving energy development in our state. Some people say they're rubber stamp. I guess I don't want to go that far, but I do think they tend to think along the lines of preparing and following the state law. And the reason I am concerned about the state law, and I've told some of our residents that I've met with, that the biggest concern I have with the legislative action is, people want us to do certain things, put a 2-mile barrier, put it in an industrial zone. Well, first of all, I don't think any of those things are even something an energy company would consider. I think they immediately would step over us and go to Lansing. And in addition to that, I don't think that's anything that we can impose under PA 233. The biggest concern I have about the legislation is, if you look to the legislation, you look at what the MPSC is supposed to consider in granting or denying a certificate, they have a long list of items. And one that seems something that we would all agree with is the last criteria is that the proposed facility does not present an unreasonable threat to public health and safety. Well, when I read that, I say that's great. They're going to consider public health and safety. However, this legislation goes further than almost anything I've seen in 40 years of experience. They then define what meets that standard for wind, for solar, and for battery energy storage. They define what meets public health and safety, and nothing in the state statute mentions zoning, which therefore, in my opinion, the state has determined zoning is not to be an issue. Could we adopt something that put zoning in our ordinance? Yes. Would it immediately be an unworkable ordinance? Yes. Would they immediately then go to Lansing? In my opinion, yes. And so unfortunately, I think this board is put in a terrible position in that I don't know how you protect your community when, for all intents and purposes, your authority has been either restricted, prohibited, preempted, whatever term you want to use. The state legislature has done this to everybody in our state. I've encouraged everybody that I've talked to again, express your concerns to the Planning Commission, express your concerns to this board. But the real fight for local control isn't even here. The real fight for local control is in Lansing. If the state legislature doesn't change this law, I don't see a way of turning this around. A lot of people have mentioned the 70 units of government that got together to fight the Planning Commission's ruling or order. Here's the MPSC's order on how to handle renewable energy systems in this state. I think it's 185 pages long, and it basically did, in my opinion, sidestep the requirements under the Administrative Procedures Act. They didn't adopt rules the way that they should have. I agree with the group that, agree with the concept of the group that is challenging this, but the challenge of the order from the MPSC really doesn't change and will not change the law, I think, one bit. It will simply challenge the authority of the MPSC to impose this order and how they follow the law, which, if they're successful, they'll simply go back and probably follow the Administrative Procedures Act and address some of the idiosyncrasies in this law that was poorly drafted, was pretty much a preemption of local authority. And I'm afraid that unless somebody changes something in Lansing, what this board can do to protect its citizens is greatly limited. I don't mean to be a pessimist, but I believe that's where this board is at.
So, Jim, thanks for walking us through that. So what is the tool that you use for a thought process called if yes, then this way, if no, then that? What's that?
Decision tree?
Yeah, decision tree. And I had a conversation with Rich, our meeting communications person, to develop a decision tree. So if the township adopts a CREO, if yes, then these are our options. If no, then these are our options. And it's the same all the way through with the doing nothing, right? So doing nothing is an option.
Yes.
Adopting a CREO is an option.
Yep.
Adopting the WEO is an option. And I mean, we haven't finished working through all of the options that we have, but none of them land in our favor with regard to providing any meaningful control around this issue.
Jim, if we made a CREO, who decides compatibility?
Well,
So if you get to a developer in a township, have a township claims CREO status,
and they say it's not a CREO,
then where do we go?
to Lansing.
To
That's the way I envision
to the
it.
civil, to the same group that would cite them?
MPSC.
MPSC,
Yeah,
Michigan
okay.
Public Service Commission.
And then they would have some type of tribunal over it?
Then they would have
We'll get there.
a determination. The other thing I want to caution you on as a board tonight is there's also a procedure for adopting ordinances under state law, and that requires that an ordinance of this type, because it's going to be in your zoning ordinance, goes to your planning commission. Your planning commission then makes a recommendation. What I wouldn't want you to do, even though you take public input, I wouldn't want this board then to make a determination tonight or even make public statements or
Right.
prejudge what you will or won't do once that recommendation is
Oh, sure.
received.
Yeah.
That would be inappropriate under state law. You're to wait and determine. You have a citizens planning commission, a planning director that will come here with a recommendation. They have heard from the citizens. They know the citizens are very concerned. But
I'm just trying to understand the mechanics of, I'm looking at the frequently asked questions from the state of Michigan about, for the effect of local units. I just want to understand, like, who decides compatibility? Do you have to publish it and get referral back from the state?
Yeah, if there's a
You know?
dispute, basically it can end up at the MPSC.
Okay. All right, that's fair.
So
Guess we haven't gotten that far, right? Like,
we haven't, and I think that the planning commission will work through some of the issues that you'll hear about tonight as
Okay.
to how do we draft the ordinance. You're going to have a wide difference of opinion.
sure.
I've heard everything from do nothing to draft an unworkable ordinance, and I wish I had a crystal ball as to what's best. I can tell you that Michigan State and the University of Michigan, when they published their recommendations, I believe they recommended trying to draft a WEO, trying to draft a workable ordinance, at least to engage the developer in a discussion.
I'll be curious to see how Jodi and the planning commission come to that determination on
And it
what's
is
something that they consider workable versus something that would be like a turn and run to Lansing for a developer.
it's a balance, and I think
It's
Jodi's
an
doing-
interesting
will do-
problem.
I trust her to do the best that she can.
Hey, Jim, can you just, for me and maybe for people out there that don't know, because I have done some research on this, and I know it's relatively new because I guess we used to source our batteries from Asia, and now this is going to be something that we're going to be seeing all across the country. So maybe there isn't really a historic precedent set yet, but is there anything historically with municipalities or townships that have faced this, which obviously they have, that have successfully deterred developers from putting these parks in their
From a legal
municipality?
standpoint, I did research. There's nothing that's gone to the Court of Appeals level I do not have the ability to research circuit court decisions.
I mean,
I
not even
couldn't
having
find-
it gone through the court yet. I'm just saying, just
I
historically, they.
Googled it and I can't find anything in Michigan. And see, the problem looking outside of Michigan is, I don't know what their statutory provisions are, what their requirements are, whether they have more strict regulations, better state statute, better control of this. I can tell you, I'm not.
There's gotta be within Michigan some municipalities that have drafted, that have done one of these things, either a CREO, a WEO.
Oh,
there's
And
several.
have-
yeah, there's
There's
some,
several.
yeah, there are a lot of units that have
Is it-
just said no. They've done an unworkable ordinance. There's units that have done CREOs. There are a number of units that have done WEOs.
So do
Michigan
we-
Townships Association, which is a group that I used to represent for 10 or 15 years, they've drafted WEOs. Your planner's looking at all of that. The question is, have any of those been challenged or have any of those been shown to be successful?
Right.
Not that I could find on Google, not that I could find through my legal research.
But it may just be that they haven't actually had a developer to actually challenge it, right?
It's possible.
Okay.
Or that it hasn't worked its way up. As far as the statute itself, am I troubled by the limited nature of restrictions that they place on these facilities? And am I troubled by the fact they treat wind, solar, and a battery energy
Batteries.
storage system
the
almost
same.
identically the same? I don't understand that, and I don't understand it.
There was a conference this summer MPSC was at, and I was at, and as of August, none have been overridden. As of August, when I was at the conference, I think it was August, they have not overridden anybody yet. So there isn't, as Jim's saying, there's not really a case law to show where they have yet, so we don't know how it would be handled.
I mean, do we even know from the developer's point of view, like what would be an attractive, what would make them want to pick a particular location? You know what I mean? I can understand.
Oh, I can tell you.
It's-
I
I
have
mean-
heard.
I'm going to
I
say the
have heard
fact that they started signing leases 2 years ago, like, they definitely know it's attractive to them. I mean, so,
So how do we make ourselves unattractive to them? I guess is
well,
the
and
question.
that's the thing is, you know, the options that we have, the CREO, the WEO, the do nothing, you know, all of them result, if they don't like what our planning commission presents and the board adopts, they skip right over us and go to Lansing.
But if we do the CREO or the WEO, they have to start with us, correct? For both of those?
They-
They have to
They
start with
do,
us.
They
yeah.
have to come in here for CREO. They do not have to come for WEO.
So
Oh,
what would be the advantage of the WEO over the CREO
The
then?
well, do they want to go through the hassle of going to the MPSC in Lansing? It's not an easy process. It's a difficult process. They might want to work with the local unit to determine if there's a way to obtain approval locally as opposed to going straight to Lansing.
but you could adopt a WEO, an entity could adopt a WEO that is so challenging that,
They would discourage,
Well, discourage them from coming here, but maybe encouraging them to go to
To go
Lansing.
to
That's the
Lansing.
balance. That's the struggle with all of this, is
Right.
even if you put the toughest restrictions in place that you want,
Reasonable is the key.
the answer is they can still ignore us, because the state has technically cut us off at the knees and told us that they can go around us. I've heard suggestions about zoning and going to industrial zones. I heard that at the planning commission. The problem is, if you look at the zoning map over there, a lot of our industrial land is located where we have sewer and water and power, and it's probably closer to many of our maybe more of our residents than even some of the outlying areas. I'm frustrated. I hope you can understand that this is not the kind of legal information you want to provide to a board.
So I have a different issue. My issue is the timing. I'm very concerned that we don't have something, we haven't even started discussion on Planning Commission, and we are running out of time. We are very much running out of time, because I think if we keep delaying this, we're going to have a situation where we have nothing in place and they go right to the MPSC and we get nothing. And so, I sent out a draft to try to start a conversation, but the Planning Commission hasn't even had a conversation about this. And I'm very, very frustrated that we're not putting urgency to this, because I think that we're going to get ourselves in a situation where we know this is coming. And if we don't do anything, we're going to be stuck with it.
Well,
And-
wait though, nothing. Even this memo indicates that a draft ordinance would be before the planning commission in December or January. That is urgency. That's
The
not
letter-
slow, that's fast.
So in my opinion, though, when I look at this letter, it says that it was delayed because of other things, and I think that this is an important thing that shouldn't have been delayed. And I think that having them come to speak to us when we didn't even have anything in place, it was in my opinion, a terrible decision. Because I think that we really need to put a lot of emphasis on this, because we knew it was coming. When this happened, we knew that something was coming, and we should have at least started a conversation. The simple conversation of things that we would want included, things that we would not want included. Having that conversation, or even educating us on it, would have been helpful. We've all had to go off and get through different means like this, the education on it, and I think we could have handled it a little better.
So it is not uncommon for different projects to request to come before the planning commission before they're even, so I think that the planning director, when she received the call from Next Gen and invited them to present to the planning commission, the intent of that was to provide that step of public education. They'd already signed a lease, Michael. I mean,
I
there's
know.
no application. I mean, so, I appreciate, but I think we are trying to fast track this as much as possible, in understanding our options and, where do we, the questions I have are, I know I called our legislators before this bill was adopted and asked them to vote no. And, the timing about whether or not we entered into that lawsuit, that didn't, and I watched the meeting minutes that were posted, or the meeting that was posted as well. It wasn't, the resolution was not in alignment of the thoughts of this board. So it's not like it's been laying moot for months and months and months.
Right.
And we do try to prioritize each item that comes before the board or the planning commission amongst many other things that have priority. So I hear what you're saying, and I think we are trying to fast track this and put public information out. I, for one, appreciate the information that's been put out by the parties that are providing and organizing around this issue, because they're putting out a lot of good information. And so, I would rather view this as trying to do the best that we can for the community and make the best decisions that we can make in more of a partnership than adversarial. But I also, so how did ITC, these are questions I asked myself, right? So I was around, I think I was a trustee when the ITC issue was being, I might have even been planning commission before a trustee, that the ITC issue was taken up by the township as legal action. And so when I'm sitting and evaluating through the decision tree, which is the word I forgot, but it's a good one, like, at what point in that litigation, and they're not apples and oranges, they're related. They're both related to public utility infrastructure and electricity, providing stable electricity. So they're not the same kind of apple, but they're pretty close. And so at what point, what was the tipping point that the township board decided, we're gonna take this to court? I mean, I think that's the stuff that I'm hoping when Jim digs into this and, we have to decide, we do nothing, we do a WEO, we do a CREO, and then, but at what point are we gonna stand up and say, Lansing is wrong and we're gonna fight you on this? And that, I think, is the bigger picture for our community and the other communities that were robbed of local control on this issue.
But I think the concern I have is when the group came before the Planning Commission, no materials were provided of a neutral nature. The only information we had was from the industry attempting to do that. And that's a very one-sided, and I get concerned that it's a very biased approach, and it's not necessarily true education on a subject. It's more of an advertisement. And when something like that is coming before a board, I would like to see more than just the applicant's viewpoint. With this one in particular, there's a lot of public material that was available. Like I've sent out to others here, the Graham's Sustainability Institute through the University of Michigan has a lot of information that would have allowed for a somewhat neutral approach on educating ourselves on it, instead of what I perceived as a bias education. So that rubbed me wrong. And if we're gonna invite somebody or allow somebody, there should also be preparation to provide full information, because the people who are on the Planning Commission, myself included, we don't have all the information or knowledge and didn't necessarily know where to get it. Luckily, I was able to ask a few questions at that time because I had gone to that conference. But without that, I wouldn't have even known how to ask a question. When this came up before this, I made a mistake and thought that this was more about solar, wind, and did not necessarily know or understand battery electric until I went to that conference. And so it's a complex issue, but I just don't think that the initial education that the Planning Commission received was fair and unbiased. And so that's the other concern I have.
Yeah, I'd like to echo that, because when I first heard about it and that this was becoming more of an issue, I thought, well, people are coming to township board meetings and talking about this. This is a serious concern. Why doesn't the board have any information about what's going on with this? It's clearly an issue, who's paying attention? And when I shared that with Trustee Chapman, he said that he had sent information from his class around it. Didn't you get that? And I'm like, no, I didn't get any information from your class. I don't know why it wasn't distributed to the board. So I think there's, the big issue of the energy storage systems, but I think we also have a breakdown here of not sharing information with all members of the board and we're not recognizing what are some of our residents' concerns. And I don't think we're reacting or proactively acting in a timely manner. And I think that is one of the issues of why I specifically asked for this to be on the agenda and have us brought up to date, because you can't have a room full of people here all on one topic and we're sitting here with no ideas, no idea what's going on or what their concerns are. We need to address those. And I think we're not doing the job we should be as a township board. Some of it's, administratively, that maybe we need to be kept more up to date of what some other departments are doing or what they think is important, and get our feedback of what the board thinks should be the important items that they're working on. But I think we need to work on that, and I agree. I was disappointed the way this has come up.
Is there any other board discussion?
I just have one more question for Jim.
Yep.
So if we, well, I have two questions. So it starts in the planning commission, whether it's a WIO or a CREO? Is that a planning commission
Yeah.
decision before it comes back to the board?
Yes, under state law, because it's going to be a zoning ordinance, that starts with your planning commission.
Okay.
And so my recommendation is that you not necessarily take a position until you've heard from your planning commission. You're supposed to get a recommendation from them. You can accept that recommendation, you can reject that recommendation. That will be ultimately be up to you when it's received.
Okay.
But you should follow the process for zoning amendments, which we have a planning commission. I recommend you follow that provision of state law and get their recommendation. It
And
doesn't
their
mean that-
recommendation, I guess they need more information, right? to
Yes, they
make
will have,
decisions,
they're gonna
so-
have to come up to speed. They'll get a recommendation from the planning director as to which direction to go. They will have to discuss that at length, take public comment, make a decision, make a recommendation to this board.
And in the meantime, are you able to look into any, I guess, at least in the state of Michigan, what other municipalities that are further along in this situation, I guess what the outcomes have been, so that you can provide that information to the planning commission, so they
We'll-
can make a more informed choice, I guess?
We will do everything that we
Or-
can to
or
provide this
advisement.
board with as much information, and the planning commission and the public with as much information as we have available, yes.
And one more question. Let's say they, after getting all of the input, that they go with a WIO. Can you change from a WIO to a CREO? I mean, are you able to change that later? Or
Well, you could change
once
it.
you make the decision and the board accepts it,
You
are
could-
we stuck with that?
You're not necessarily stuck with the ordinance. However, if somebody files an application under an existing ordinance, you're bound by that ordinance.
With that
With that
particular
particular
person?
applicant. Can you
Okay.
change it after that, or before someone applied? Could you change a WIO to a CREO? You could. Could you change a WIO to an unworkable ordinance? Again, the planning commission and this township board, you have the authority to take whatever approach you feel is best for the
Does the
community.
township board have the authority, let's say, because I do feel like this is going to be kind of a work in progress because this is such a new thing. So we're hoping that they get enough information to make the correct, I guess,
Remember that the planning commission recommendation will merely be a recommendation to the board.
right, but
So
we're
that-
relying on their recommendation outside of our own.
I mean, yeah, we will accept their recommendation, but that doesn't mean that we have to accept their recommendation. We
Right.
can send it back to
Okay, and that's.
have them chew on it some more, or?
And what I'm asking though is, let's say that we do accept their recommendation. And then, do we then, as a board, have the authority to say, we don't think this is working, we want them to go back and look at other alternatives?
Oh, you mean like after?
Like
it's-
after, I mean,
it's
obviously, I
passed?
understand
Yeah.
that whoever the applicant is, under whatever ordinance or whatever we decide.
Absolutely. If
We could always
Again,
recommend
if a
that
new
they-
issue comes up, if in fact the group of 70 is successful in somehow getting the state to reconsider how they adopted their regulations, because again, I don't think they did it in accordance with the Administrative
Yeah.
Procedures Act, and that could affect how you handle one of these. So yes, you can always go back and rework it. You're never locked into any ordinance. You can always change an ordinance. If facts and circumstances or the law or a court ruling changes things, you absolutely have the
Change.
authority to change.
But it goes back, it's our authority to say to the planning commission, go back and
Correct.
do it again. Okay.
Yep.
We could even amend their recommendation, correct?
After first sending it back. You have to
Oh,
send it back.
we have to send it back at least once?
You cannot
Okay.
change the planning commission's initial recommendation
Okay.
without sending it back, asking for changes. And then when it comes back, you have the authority to, this board reserved to itself unlike some communities, the planning commission is not the final authority. The final authority on any ordinance, including zoning, is the township board.
Thank you. So I think it'll be even more important, like Neil said, that the information flows from the planning commission to the board members as it's in progress.
All right, any other board discussion? It's currently 7:20. And I am going to open this item up for public comment. But I do want to take perhaps a 5-minute bathroom break, a stretch break. So, and I guess if more than just me have to use the restroom, it might take, so why don't we reconvene at 7:30? This meeting is adjourned. All right, folks, we're going to get this show back on the road here. All right, it's 7:30. John, you and Kenji, we're ready to go. See, the board is reconvened. I will call this meeting back to order. And at this time, going to open up for public comment regarding agenda item 14, I believe. Agenda item 14. As a reminder, each individual has an opportunity for 4 minutes of public comment. Public comment is public comment. It's just your personal comments to the board. It is not a back and forth deliberation. And then I just want to remind the board members, as we move through this opportunity for public comment, that you should not be taking any positions or making any statements that could, in the future, interfere with the decisions of the Planning Commission. That would be inappropriate. At this time, I will call public comment. You have 4 minutes. And if you, it's not required, but if you would provide your name and your address, it's very helpful for us to know who's here as concerned citizens and also concerned citizens as residents. So at this time, the podium's open.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Bruce Goethe. I live on M Avenue, downwind, as I know now. 9775 West M Avenue. We've owned that property for 25 years, lived there for 23 years. So I have some questions that now I know that you don't need to answer, but it used to be in the Oshtemo master plan that there was it was expressed in writing that we wanted to preserve the rural character of the western part of the township. I don't know if that's still there. I was involved with the power line project because the power line goes right down M Avenue across the street from us in my neighbors' backyards. And I know that the township was opposed to it, and I know Mr. Porter put a lot of effort into it to support the residents. And ITC could take it, they could seize it by eminent domain if they wanted. So that was, and I will, before the meeting started, I wrote down that the Michigan Public Service Commission is a rubber stamp. So that we differ on that, and Mr. Porter didn't want to go that far. I'm embarrassed that I'm just finding out about this. I'm embarrassed that I saw it on Channel 3, like, what? That's not happening here. And here we go. It is. So I was a 492nd member to join the Facebook group today. So you have the power. I'm also a little bit disgusted to think that it was on the February agenda, the Planning Commission, and you call that fast. There was a long agenda in the memo, so we didn't get to it. We might put it on the agenda for December or January. That is disgusting. It's urgent, like you're saying. You guys have the power. You can stay silent if you want. You have the power to ignore it. You have the power to not inform the residents like me. I live down the street, I'm downwind, what's going on? Why don't I know about this? Or you can be a squeaky wheel, you can at least inform us, put it in your newsletter. I really don't understand why I don't know about this. There we go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Katie Schneider. The Van Cal Battery Energy Storage Project isn't across the road from us, tucked behind the power station. Rather, it borders the property line of our pumpkin and organic produce fields, the very heart of our farm to the south. Over the past year, I've become a regular at the Oshtemo Planning and Board meetings. Not because I wanted to, but because I had to. After this board enacted an ordinance that limited our farm's ability to build a proper barn on our own 29 acres, my husband and I decided to start paying closer attention. And what I've seen since then has been deeply disappointing, not just to me, but to dozens of residents who've shared their stories and frustrations with me since then. What I've witnessed personally is a board that routinely fails to uphold its own core values of transparency, integrity, professionalism, and public service. I've watched as the planning director brought forward items under miscellaneous or tacked other items on the agenda already, conveniently, while many did not attend because those items weren't on the agenda. The early public discussions about the BESS project in August was presented as just educational, while behind the scenes, multiple meetings with developers and even our fire department had already taken place in June. Don't even get me started on the illegal assessing of ag land in Oshtemo as well. After speaking out at 4 Oshtemo meetings against BESS, I wondered if I was wrong, if I had misheard. When I came to the township office to request more information, I was told there was nothing else to share. Hoping I was mistaken, I contacted the landowner, who confirmed there was already a lease for the battery project next door to us. We pulled the land record and found that lease had been filed with the county clerk back in December of 2023. A FOIA request then confirmed what many had suspected. This township knew about the project and its details months before residents were told a thing. Even today, you will hear that as speculation. That's not transparency. That's not integrity. Residents are met with blank stares, dismissive responses, and excuses. We've even caught misstatements to the press about what was known, and the FOIA documents certainly show otherwise. When my neighbors and I met with the planning director, Jodi Stefforia, and the township attorney on October 20th, we learned that Jodi had asked developers not to disclose project details or the location. And reviewed emails between her and the developers showed that she repeatedly told them their Van Cal neighbor had spoken out again. How does that align with professionalism or public service? To make matters worse, several members of this board publicly supported PA 233 back in December, the legislation that stripped away local control over large-scale energy projects, power that should have been in the hands of the people of Oshtemo. Supporting that law directly undermines your duty to represent and protect your own residents. And ironically, together, residents have collected over 200 signatures to help get House Bill 4027 and 4028 passed to get the power back to local governments, whether they want it or not, I guess. The residents of Oshtemo and others in possible BESS fire evacuations have done our research. We've formed neighborhood groups, filed FOIA requests, and spoken out here and also in front of the MPSC last night. Not because we enjoy confrontation, but because of our local government. The BESS project may not be slated to break ground until 2028, but accountability starts tonight. That's also the year that all of you will be on the ballot again. In 2028, this township will have the chance to choose a new direction, one grounded in honesty, accountability, and transparency. And I do plan to be on that ballot to help lead Oshtemo back to the values it promises and the residents it serves, because Oshtemo can do better, and together we will.
Next.
Gary DeBryan. I was very happy to hear that the board recognizes, or some of you recognize, that in terms of clean energy projects, a large-scale battery storage system is nothing like a solar panel or a wind turbine. When they fail, nothing happens. When a large-scale battery storage system fails, it is a nightmare, both from a safety standpoint and from an environmental standpoint. And here's why. These systems have only been around for about 10 years, and significant challenges still exist with lithium-ion technology. Battery storage system fires and explosions are reported every year since 2018, resulting in injuries, death, and environmental issues. You need to take a look at the Electric Power Research Institute's large-scale battery facility incidents database. It's worldwide. They're going everywhere. Large-scale battery storage system technology is prone to thermal runaway and results in an explosion and fire. That fire cannot be put out with water. That fire will emit toxic fumes for as long as it burns, and it may burn for days. If you have any questions about that, look at the Moss Landing batteries fire in California. It's horrendous. If that should happen, we should have a fire, there is not an evacuation plan on earth that is going to save the people living next to it. You don't have to believe me. Just do the research. Please, do the research. This is not something we want in Oshtemo Township. Whatever you do for the ordinances and the plans that you have, it cannot allow large-scale battery storage systems in this township. One last thing. I understand if you say no to it, it goes up to the MPSC. That's fine. Send it there. I would feel better that you guys are standing there watching our backs rather than saying, oh, follow these rules and then put it in. We'd rather take the fight to the state.
My name's Dwayne Hampton. I spent a few hours on Sunday going around where I live on Blue Jay Avenue in the Hidden Pond subdivision. Every single household I went to where the adults were home, they gladly signed against this taking place so close to our neighborhood. As we know, there's been 150 major fires that cannot be put out, and they put cyanide in the air, and the ground underneath them can never be used to plant anything, not even grass, ever again, if you look into it. And so I was really tickled to find out how many people in our neighborhood were tickled to death to sign this petition, and I still got some days to still go ahead and do it. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you for taking the time to listen to us this evening. My name is Faith Butcher. I'm a resident of Hidden Pond, and I believe I am less than 1,000 yards away from our new ground zero. We have quite a spider web to entangle from the sounds of things. We're no strangers with regards to having to deal with the Power Commission in Lansing. 2 years ago, we had to take our fight there from them, from consumers putting in 23 miles of power lines through Van Buren County. As of today, we're still kind of wondering, is there any application or permit on file by this NewEdge Power Battery Company? Is there anything on paper as far as a permit, an application, or anything? Or are they just kind of fishing to see if they can get through?
It's not a back and forth dialogue by the board.
Okay.
The memo stands.
So, okay, we'll find out on our own then. And we urge you to please adopt some kind of a workable ordinance so we don't have to keep fighting battles, big companies coming in that don't have our best interests at heart. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just as follow-up to that it's not a back and forth, as Supervisor Bell reminded everyone. But I did fulfill two FOIA requests regarding information from NewEdge, and just in that time, there is no permit on file or anything that has been filed for a project by NewEdge.
Thank you.
I didn't want to, thank you for doing that. I didn't want to wait till the end.
right.
So please move forward.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Good evening, I'm Dr. Amy Howell. I just found out about this 2 days ago from a Facebook, which is, in my opinion, a gross dereliction of duty on your behalf. The fact that a single one of you said, ooh, can we do nothing, is absurd. We cannot have this here. The prevailing wind, I live a half mile from there. The prevailing wind in that area is due west, as you said. You know what's 4 miles, or just over 4 miles east of this? Prairie View Elementary. My kids' daycare, downtown Oshtemo. You have 15 minutes before they are breathing toxic smoke. If you thought a flood in Texas with 20 kids getting swept away was bad, wait until an entire elementary school ends up with some medical complication from a battery fire that happens that you can't control. We don't have the facilities to address a meltdown here. It is 10 minutes from downtown Matawan to get to that area if they can control it in time. That is absolutely absurd that this even made it this far, that this was on the docket in February, and we are just hearing about it now, just having discussions about it, that you guys don't know. They had to file paperwork to get lights in their parking lot. And you're telling me that there's a lease on this area now? And they've been fishing since February of 23 or sometime in 2023? We're just now hearing about it. That is absurd. You are meant and elected to represent your constituents, and not a single person in this room or in the county, if they knew, would support this. So kind of shame on you. Shame on you. I gotta go home.
I'm Danita DeBryan. We live on L Avenue, and our property adjoins this farm as well. I've made so many speeches in the last few nights, I don't really know what to follow anymore. Last night we were up at the Michigan Public Service Commission, and they seemed to be very interested in what we had to say. They wrote notes constantly and listened to everybody's discussion, all the way from the new data centers they're putting into the BESS facilities. It was heartwarming in a way to see them look at us and really kind of think about what we were saying, that these are not the same things as a wind turbine that you can turn off if the birds are migrating, or a solar system, if a panel breaks, you just get the repairman in, but you can turn them off. These you can't. They cannot be under the same rules and regulations. So I agree with everyone here. Yeah, it's between a rock and a hard place. And we've heard about 233 so much. We've made petitions for that, and hope you all will sign them because you're part of this community. It's very difficult to think, well, if we make it this hard, we want to make it no. We want to say no, not in our residential area. We'll go to the MSPC and just confront them then. At least we'll go the next step. But to just make it just a little bit harder for some random company who hardly has any experience to come in and put this dangerous, I mean, it ruins our property values, it's our health, it's our future. You can't say yes to that in any way. We have to fight it all the way and take it to the Supreme Court if we have to. We can't say yes. It's not a good situation under any credible ordinance that they would say, okay, we can build it under those restrictions. No, we don't want it. We have to say no. Thank you for your time.
Is there anyone else wishing to make public comment? No, please.
You know, I'm having a hard time. I'm having a hard time because nobody can reflect and tell us what, give us feedback right now. But multiple board members had no problem giving feedback when this energy company showed up out of nowhere to present to you. Here's Zach. I just feel like I'm not concerned about this personally because I believe that the state legislature is trying to accomplish what's best in the interest of everybody in the state and in the nation. And it doesn't affect me personally. I'm leaning away from wanting to publicly support the folks filing the appeal against Michigan Public Service Commission here. I don't understand how it benefits us, Zach. So, I think I'm fully in support of PA 233, completely in support of that, because newbies, not in my backyard, us, and more, they always show up in numbers to complain. Mike. Trustee Neil Sikora then went on to offer a blanket statement of endorsement of PA 233, and Trustee Neal's comments did not give any discussion about the local impacts. PA 233 already limits how much control local government can have on large-scale energy projects. When the majority of the Oshtemo board members completely supported it, that is a shift in power, and it dismisses residents' concerns. It signaled a potential loss to us about the balance of future decision-making. You took that away from us. You should have kept your mouth shut. Here's what I'm telling you. You can either fight for us, or what I'm gonna do on November 20th is I'm gonna file my intent to remove you, and to remove you. Because if you had no problem talking to them, you better get yourself together because you work for us. We're not your customers. You are a public servant, and if you can't figure that out, what that means to us who elected you, we will get people in place who can.
My name is Mike Bortles. This is my first time attending this meeting. I just found out about this not quite a week ago. One thing I've observed with listening to you all in your meeting, you've talked about rubber stamps. It sounds like you guys are a rubber stamp, as long as it has a dollar sign after it. Second thing, it sounds like from all the planning I've heard, you guys haven't done really a good job of planning anything because we underestimated, we made mistakes, we didn't do this, we didn't do that, we didn't do this, we didn't do that. Sounds like you're not capable of doing your job you've been elected to do. Now, what I'm asking you guys is do the right thing. If you're not capable of doing that, then listen to your residents and listen to what we're asking for to fight for. We're not up here saying, hey, this is something we don't want. This is our backyards. I'm right next to this. When we moved into Oshtemo, we moved in for the beauty of the trees. You talk about beautifying Oshtemo. That's trees. That's not buildings, it's batteries. I'm not sure what your definition of beautifying is. You talk about a trail system. But then you turn around and say, well, we could put this over here. It doesn't impact me, so what do I care? But comes money. I know what my tax bill looks like every month. I think it's well heard. So you're telling me this is going to increase our property values, are you? I don't think it is. I think it's going to lower our values of our home, put our kids in danger. This is serious. This is not a game. Stop playing politics. We want you to do what you've been elected to do, and that's represent us, the people, not your own agenda. I'm done.
Hello.
Hello, good evening. My name is Hiram. I'm a resident in the Toscana residence neighborhood. Many of my neighbors are here. Forgive my informal clothes for the moment. Ann had asked me to come right from work. I didn't know that this was here today. I was here last week on this just to kind of listen and understand. Real quick background. 2014, I'm in Dallas, Texas, and I get a call from my facility that my facility's on fire. We go to the facility, and as I'm going there, the fire marshals, they want to get into the vault where we have all of our finished goods inventory, and there's probably around 50,000 iPhones at the time. I have a large-scale refurbishment business in Dallas, Texas, and around the time of iPhone 5 is when we really got to massive scale. You guys probably all have 16s, 17s, 15s. The battery size is much larger. At that period of time, the largest thing that destroyed our inventory, getting us almost an $8 million insurance claim, was the rapid acceleration of the batteries once they caught fire in all of those devices. The footprint of that inventory was somewhere between here and that table, no higher than maybe 6 feet. The concentration of that, much smaller in form, but actually very combustible when concentrated. So I was interested to hear from, excuse me, Katie, right there. And this is, my neighbors don't even know this about me, actually. They don't know of my refurbishment business or my scale. And the next part I'll share real quickly, probably not as well. Because in my neighborhood, when I get home, I have a 9-year-old daughter, I have a 5-year-old boy, I have a 15-month-old baby, and I drive the neighborhood in my golf cart. And we were going to buy a pumpkin in a local farm, and that's when I learned from Katie that as we were buying the pumpkin, that this was right in our neighborhood. So it made me quite concerned. In my home, my kids, we recycle AAA batteries, AA batteries, 9-volt batteries, our smoke detectors, all of it, because my business in Texas is certified by ISO 9001, 18001, OSAS 18001, 14001, and another mandate called responsible recycling, which allows us and requires us as certified downstream partners to Dell and HP to account for every piece of electronic equipment that they provide us and that it doesn't end up in the landfill. That sort of custody is because the products in that world are pretty intense, not only data, but also the lithium ion from the battery form factor. That business still runs today. We refurbish for Amazon, and we do north of 20,000 devices a month. The footprint of the iPad battery and laptop battery is much bigger. The number one thing we do every single year in our certification renewals, it's built around lithium-ion batteries. The number one thing in our facility that causes the greatest pain point is lithium-ion. I have 7 staff members, unfortunately, that in the course of the last 4 years have lost between 1 to 4 fingers from dealing and handling the recycled batteries, because when they catch fire, they burn at a rate that is super fast, super intense. I've seen it. I've held a team member's hand while it was a result of this burning.
You have approximately 30 seconds.
Thank you. I have the largest cannabis brand here in the state of Michigan, Mitten Extracts. We produce over 1 million devices a month, lithium-ion batteries inside of this. I've dealt with 17 townships here in the state, so I understand the protocol. We have a recycling program for this battery that's this small, and we're treating it as sensitive as we can because of the environment. Because at the end of the day, guys, our mission is to advance the quality of all residents through a commitment to responsible growth and value-driven municipal services that promote the relationship among economic vitality, environmental stewardship, and social equity. This is your guys' board charter on your webpage. I find it very interesting we could get this far. Well, that's the mandate that governs you guys. Please think about that, adapt what we can, and at least, whether we're handcuffed by Lansing, let's fight it and show the people that this board cares about its residents.
Hello.
Good evening. My name is Rob Morrison. I live on Green Meadow Road, so I'm on the eastern edge of Oshtemo Township. And I recently moved here a few months ago, so a lot of this is very new to me, and I found about this last weekend. So while I'm still doing research on it, it's pretty clear that this project is really just not acceptable for the township and must be fought at every level by the community and by the board. And I think you've heard that already. I looked at the master plan back from 2017, and it said that the western half, the majority of the western half of the township is really for rural residential use. I've been out there. I don't live near it, but it's still going to affect me. And I think it's important you hear from people who may not be right there in the neighborhood that this is a township, this is a local issue, not just for people who have to live near that. And I just think that this is not acceptable. It also, PA 233, that's new to me, but that's clearly an attempt to usurp local control, and so that also has to be changed. So I think there are many avenues for us to fight on this, but I've been paying more attention to data centers and seeing what kind of dangers they supply, and I was concerned that there would be a data center attempt here in the township. Now I see that it's a battery storage area first, but this could open the door for data centers. And if projects of this scale start coming into the township, it's going to put everybody at risk and those around us as well. We already have to deal with data centers coming into the state of Michigan, some of them very close. So I ask you to oppose this as best you can, because I think that's really what you're hearing tonight. Thank you.
Last week was my first time to the meeting. All my neighbors are here, and they've all spoke. I was completely embarrassed last week because I didn't know about this. I had to get a text from one of my neighbors that told me what was going on. I'm not as embarrassed anymore because I'm not alone, obviously. And I think there's a lot of people that still don't know. And I've been calling everybody I can today and letting them know, because I don't think we understand, and I think some of you are figuring out the ramifications of all this if it does happen, and how it's going to affect not just people in this room, but Oshtemo in general, which obviously, and I don't understand this 4-minute, we can't talk back and forth. I don't understand all that. We're all adults. I think we should all be able to have conversation. I appreciated you guys speaking up and saying that, hey, maybe we dropped the ball on this a little bit. Maybe we should move a little faster on this, because you should. This is important for all of our families and all of your families. I don't know where you live. I said that last week. I don't. I could look it up. It's public. But if you guys care about this community and this township, like you say you will, we'll get this fixed and not let this come into our community. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Katie. I am here also, it is an issue to have this be like a closed discussion where you guys cannot talk back and forth. I would love to understand if we have done some environmental impacts on what would happen if this facility caught on fire. Maybe that's the planning committee's, whatever they're called, planning committee's job. But I don't think our firefighters are trained for this. I don't think that they are prepared to take on something like this. I don't think that they want to. I don't think they want to be put into a toxic situation like that. What happens if they do use water on this? My understanding, again, I'm just finding out about this, so I haven't had a ton of time to research it, but if they do use water to try and put out these fires, which I don't think would work, but let's just say they do, what happens to that water? Because I think that water would then become toxic. So then would we have to recollect that water? I would think you would have to then clean it somehow and dispose of it correctly. Who's paying for all of that? Is this next gen company paying for all of that? Or is that something that we have to pay for? I would love to understand that. So I'd love to understand where we go to get these kind of questions answered. I also think that I've heard, again, I'm just new to this, unfortunately, but I've heard that other townships, maybe Madawan has been fighting this, and they have said no. And so I don't understand why we're taking a stance that we're in a rock and a hard spot. We're just going to have to make it easy, and so we don't have to cause ripples. I'm not saying that maybe that's how all of you feel, but that can be a little bit of a takeaway from tonight's conversation. And my encouragement to all of you is to make our township, as Kristen was saying earlier, as unappealing to this company as possible. Whether it's through the CREO, a WEO, a non-WEO, whatever, I don't know. Whatever it is, make it as unappealing as possible. And if this company wants to take it up to Lansing, then let them do it. And we can fight that as much as we can. If we have to go to the Supreme Court, maybe we will lose, but at least we will know that you had our backs. We will know that you care about the residents here and about your community. Thank you.
Welcome.
Hi, my name's John Paver. I'm from Comstock. And so we've been dealing with the BESS station now since 2019, actually. So we recently turned over some of the board positions at Comstock, and it came to light that this was already being worked on through closed doors meetings. Don't have closed door meetings, always have open ones. But we have been fighting back against the BESS station, and we have a moratorium on it since the beginning of this year. The good news is that regardless of whether or not you have a CREO or anything, they still have to go to the MPSC. And even before they go the MPSC will tell them that they have to file an intent to file to the township or the city back to them. That is a 60-day notice before the intent to actually file goes to the MPSC. That's 60 days that they have. Then they have to pay a $75,000 application fee to the MPSC. Then once that's done, then they have to put $150,000 into an escrow account. And then what you can do from there is that can be used for consulting, that can be used for experts. Go grab the furthest expert you can, Europe, wherever, bring them in. That gives you another 160 to 270 days. Because then once it goes to the MPSC, even if the MPSC says, yes, great, you have a case, great, it goes up, the MPSC then will hold a public hearing, and that will take 180 to 270 days. You can give yourself 6 to 12 months by simply just following the MPSC rules. 233, it's in there. So it's not as doom and gloom as it is. You have a lot of tools. You can sit there and do exactly what Comstock does, which is put a moratorium on it. You can look at the docket. Jim, I encourage you to look at the docket. As of now, no developer has actually gone to the MPSC. There are only 3 that are on the e-docket right now, and all of them are solar farms or wind. Nobody has done it because it's so arduous and a 6-month thing, and a 6 to 12-month thing. And right now, everybody's racing to get these things as fast as possible. Unfortunately, there is a data center coming. I met with a developer who's trying to put one in Pavilion Township on N Avenue. As of now, thanks to us fighting back, I met with the developer this morning at Water Street, and they are putting it on hold. This is what these BESS stations are designed for. They are not designed to alleviate the grid in any sort of idea. The BESS stations are designed to purchase the energy during off-peak times, store them, then when the data centers, because data centers need continuous running, at least 99.99% online capacity, per various regulations. And so for them to do that, what they will do is then go to the BESS station and they will go, hey, I'd like to buy your cheap discounted rate that Consumers Energy gave you. Can you do that? Yes, we'll sell it to you. So the data center will come in and negotiate lower rates. The BESS station will come in and lower negotiated rates. And then the arbitrage there is where the BESS station will make their money. The company that has come for the BESS station is from Denmark, Copenhagen. These are people who are here to make a profit. They have no intent to better the grid. It has nothing to do with that. Like I said, we've been doing this for 2 years now. You can put a moratorium on it. I'll be at the Main Street Pub, Matawan, this Thursday, 6 p.m. if anybody wants to learn more or do anything. Unfortunately, I've been spending an inordinate amount of time doing this and organizing. We have a Facebook group as well. But all is not lost. There is a lot of avenues. Even if you don't do anything, it doesn't matter. I would encourage you to do what Comstock is doing, which
30 seconds.
2,000 feet away from it. Where it's proposed right now in Comstock is less than a couple hundred yards away from a new STEM school that's put in place. If this thing explodes or does anything of the sort, of which they deny all of it and say that it's all fancy and it won't happen, you will have to strap on N95 masks on small children. Anybody ever tried to do anything with a small child? I would not be want to be the person who wants to strap on an N95 mask the correct way. If any adult here has ever strapped on an N95 mask correctly, I don't think anybody has. I can't even do it.
Time, please. Thank you.
Anyways, all's not lost. There's still hope. That's it.
Any further public comment? All right, at this time, I will close public comment on this item. I thank you all for being here, sharing your comments with the board. I want to remind the board members, public comment is closed, but before we move into item 15, I'm going to give the board an opportunity to provide any comments, just reminding you that this item has to go to the Planning Commission, so just be mindful of not influencing the Planning Commission from this dais this evening.
Okay, so I do want to say something. First of all, I appreciate all of you being here. It's not easy to sit up here and have things said in a very angry manner toward you, and criticize what you've done up to this point. Luckily, my prior career developed thick skin for me, but I can't speak for the rest of the board. But for me, I will say I'm glad you guys are here in spite of that, in spite of how difficult that moment is for us. But I'm glad you're here, and I want you to know that I do hear you. And I discourage the, I guess, personal attacks. I do appreciate the people, I appreciate all of you for being here and stating what you've stated. And I understand the emotion behind it. So, but I do appreciate the people that give us a little bit of grace. I mean, we're not perfect, obviously, and we have work to do, but we hear you. I hear you, and that's all.
Thank you for saying that.
I would like to add, I also appreciate you being here, and engaged citizenry is really important. And we don't get to select what people find important. We wait and we hear that from the people. I do want to remind everyone, though, that these board meetings are not the only time to speak to the board. Individually, we are all available all week, and we also have staff members who are available all week during our office hours that can sit down and have the conversations and answer questions, because we can't do that during this time. This is only a one-way communication. But we certainly look forward to that engagement during our office hours outside of board meetings. That's all.
Thank you, Dusty. Michael?
Yeah, I want to thank everybody as well. And, it's important. Many times we will not agree, but hearing you and having that interaction is very important. One thing that, I've learned over time is sometimes you make mistakes, and sometimes you learn from the mistakes. And sometimes you don't know what you don't know until you put the time and effort into trying to find out more. And all of you have challenged everybody up here to do that, which makes us a better community. I wish more of you would be here for more of this, because many times sitting here, we're looking out at nobody. And even somebody who disagrees with you, at least is somebody there who's involved. So thank you. I've thanked you for motivating your community, which I think is very important. And as I said before, we may not always agree on things, but getting people to a public meeting, I commend every one of you for doing.
Thank you, Mr. Chapman. Any comments?
Sure. I do want to thank everyone for coming out and sharing their views. I'm glad we were able to put this on the agenda and have this meeting. Feel free to reach out to me. Some of you already have, and I've returned your calls or your messages. I appreciate that. My personal phone number is on the website under my name, at the township, anytime, email, whatever. That's important to keep that dialogue up, so you know what's going on and we know what's going on and what's important. Thank you.
Mr. Ford? All right, thank you. I want to extend my thanks for you being here and sharing your thoughts and comments, and frankly, educating me personally. I am paying attention and reading all the stuff y'all are putting out, so I know it's challenging, but I do appreciate it. And certainly, yes, as Clerk Farmer said, we are available to you as needed, whenever you need. I'm going to close item 14 now, and the board is moving into closed session for written opinion of council. I want you to know that this written opinion of council is regarding a separate contract matter, and it is not closed session discussing the BESS project. So there will be more public comment after we return back from closed session, but I just want to at least provide, to let you know that the BESS project is not why we're going into closed session. It's regarding a different contract matter. So with that, I will accept a motion to take us into closed session.
I move to enter closed session to discuss written opinion of council.
I'll second.
I have a motion by trustee Ford, a second. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, we have a resolution. Clerk Farmer.
Trustee Ford.
Are you ready for us back there? Okay, I make a motion to return to open session.
Support.
I have a motion by trustee Ford and support from trustee Cole. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6 with 1 absent. Next, we turn to item number 16, which is an opportunity for public comment. Do we have any further public comment? No? Do we have any hands online? Okay. We'll close the second opportunity for public comment and move to item number 17, which is board member comments and committee updates. And start with Mr. Ford.
I don't have anything tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sikora?
Yeah, thank you. Friends of the Parks met last week. Among other things, we reviewed our progress, discussed volunteer and sponsor recognition, formed the Music in the Parks Subcommittee, approved pursuing certain grant opportunities, and discussed the online community ambassador position. Also want to thank everyone for being understanding and working with the change in the agenda. Really appreciate that. And just in case that no one else was, I want to remind everyone that our next meeting is on Monday, November 10th, instead of Tuesday, because November 11th is a holiday. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Cole? Thank you. Trustee Chapman?
The Planning Commission had a meeting, in case you didn't know. We discussed a comprehensive plan and took citizen comments regarding battery electric storage systems, which I think you were probably aware of. It was a very lively conversation and well attended by our community. We will be continuing our work on the comprehensive plan, going through section by section. They have been very considerate of the concerns that have been raised, and they have been good partners to work with.
I watched the meeting, I watched the whole meeting, and I thought that, I mean, there's a lot of public comment at that meeting as well, but also the walkthrough with our consultant through the comprehensive master plan was very good. So I think it's worth a watch to, you know, if you want to start, eventually that 250-page document is coming our way, so you might want to get your appetite whet for that. But she did a really nice job. Clerk Farmer.
Thank you. We do have an election on November 4th, and that means that we will have, the clerk will be holding office hours this Saturday from 7 to 3 as we prepare for that election. If anybody needs to come in to get a last-minute absentee ballot, you're certainly welcome to. We will be here, smiles on, partying down on a Saturday.
Supervisor, can I add one more?
Sure, go ahead.
Just in light of the comments we had, I'm not going to be ignoring anybody, but I will be on military service starting tomorrow, returning on the 7th of November. So I will have limited availability.
Oh, thank you for that, Trustee Chapman. I'm wondering, we can talk offline, but I'm wondering, we could perhaps assign, like perhaps the legal department to check your township emails for you in your absence, or I don't know. I mean, just, it's up to you. And I understand you're not going to be available anyway, so I guess it's moot, but.
Electronically, I'll be available, but I wouldn't be able to answer phone calls if any phone calls come through. So it's more of a message to the community that I'll answer any emails that come through in the evening, but I wouldn't be able to answer phone calls live.
Okay, fair enough. I just wanted to offer if we could help anyway. be happy to do that. Thank you for your service. From the supervisor's office, I think just a couple of top lines. I think I mentioned during the meeting, we have started a conversation with Rich and the legal department about what information we can share with the public regarding this BESS. I mean, it really needs to be very fact-based. So maybe adding a page to our website, and that way we can direct people from our communication to that as well. We are going back to the well regarding a finance manager. So stay tuned on that. I know it's been, yes, yes. You know, and I'm happy, I don't want to do details from the dais regarding that. We definitely are interviewing some great candidates, and people make choices that fit better for their own personal life. And so, and I understand it, it still leaves us working to fill that position. So, Sarah, the HR director, and I, along with the clerk, because this position ultimately reports to the clerk, will be focusing our attention and taking another deep dive into that position and seeing what can happen there. And then just for a matter of information, I know Trustee Ford and Trustee Cole are on the police committee. I did receive the draft contract from the Sheriff's Department, and so I'll be calling a meeting of that police committee and sharing that draft. I've shared it with legal so that Jim can start reviewing it. But we will want to get that probably on our one of our agendas in November, because it has to go to the county for adoption. So I just wanted to let you all know that that is coming. And with that, I think our meeting is adjourned, and everybody have a great night.